All right, guys, welcome back to the Bluegrass on this beautiful, what is it now, May? We've been in this COVID lockdown so long, I'm losing track of time. Okay, but what we're talking about right now is my buddy Vito. Now, Vito's going home tomorrow, so I thought I'd bring him back out and we'd go on one big adventure before we went home. And now Vito's a very special case. I normally don't take dogs Vito's age, but a very interesting thing happened. A fella, he contacted me, he's from North Carolina or somewhere, and he's telling me about Vito. And when Vito was young, he had what was called puppy strangles. And listen, you don't see that very often. What puppy strangles is, I think they call it juvenile cellulitis or something like that. I don't know. But anyway, like they get these weird lesions all over their face when they're puppies. And nobody knows why it's happened. You know, people speculate maybe there's a genetic component to it. It's just some puppies get it and some puppies don't. And sometimes they die, you know, like if they don't have owners that get them to the vet quickly or that understand what's happening or don't have the resources to, pursue all the medical, avenues available, then it can have real bad results. Basically, and I'll put a picture on this, either the thumbnail or maybe right now, of Vito when he was young. Basically, it's an autoimmune mediated disease. In other words, the dog's own immune system kind of attacks them and their whole face swells up, and you can still see a little bit. See if you can see that, cameraman. See this kind of little scarring here? Vito's pretty lucky in that he's been getting over his scarring and doesn't look like it's going to be too much trouble with it. We've been putting a little vitamin E salve on it while he was here. But anyway, so Vito's whole face just swelled up and he lost all his hair and he had these pustule like lesions on him. And the way you fix it is you suppress the immune system. So then you gotta worry, because then the dogs get bacterial infections. So you have to put them on antibiotics. And so like Vito was on prednisone and then various antibiotics for a really extended period of time, and that has a lot of long-term negative externalities. And so when Brian contacted me and he kind of gave me a little background information on this dog, I was like, yeah, he can come on up and we'll see if we can't get him moving in the right direction. Because what happens when the dogs are sick like that, they miss out on a lot of early stage training and socialization. And so when Vito got here, he didn't have much in the way of attention span or impulse control. He had zero proprioceptions. Like, he didn't know where his body was. You know, it was crazy trying to watch him even attempt even the smallest little obstacles on our Exercise with Small Challenges course. But now, look, he's rocking and rolling. He's doing great. He's getting along with all the other dogs. He's got great attention span, great manners, and he's been on a whole bunch of big adventures. And so Vito is now living his best life, you know, and you can see him up here right now. He's like wanting to get down because he's ready to get off here in the creek. So follow along. We're going to take and we got to cut some weeds out of the way with my machete, because I got some smaller puppies that are coming out here tomorrow. And we're just going to let Vito tag along with me and, like I said, live his best life. All right, so now I'm fixing to head over here down the creek and use my machete. And so I don't want Vito underfoot. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and just get a few quick retrieves in him, kind of burn off some of that nervous energy that he has. Hey, Vito, look at there. Go get it, buddy. Very nice. You're a good dog. Oh, you're such a good dog. Very nice. Oh, what a good boy. Oh, and Vito's retrieving has come along so far. I'm so proud of him. We're going to throw it up here in the brush. Show him, cameraman. Back up over there. So we'll throw it up over here. The trees a little bit. Let Vito go. Now see, that ended up in a tree. So Vito's going to have to work hard to get it. Let's see if he can do it. Like, he's looking all around like, hey, where's my dummy? And he got it. Oh my gosh, Vito, you're such a good boy. Oh, you are such a good boy. I'm so proud of you. Oh my gosh. Out. Let go of it, dude. That's enough, Vito. Okay, now you'll get a little bit of this, especially with dogs that when they were young, maybe things didn't go so well for them and they didn't get a lot of early life socialization and they didn't get to engage in a lot of fun activities. When you put them into a high distraction environment, they're so worried that the activities are going to come to an end, they just can't hardly bring themselves to fully cooperate. So sometimes when I throw this dummy, even though, Vito's really excited about getting a chance to go get it again, like he's in conflict because he loves the toy so much, he can't hardly give it away, you know? It's you know, that's where that old saying, you want your cake and you want to eat it too, right? So I don't know how many of you guys have little kids, but sometimes when you get a little kid a birthday cake, like they love having the birthday cake and they want to eat it. So, you know, like you let them blow out their now Vito wants to go for a four-wheeler ride again. But you let them blow out their candles and then, you know, you go to cutting the cake, and as soon as you cut the cake, they start crying. Well, why are they crying? Well, because they know they don't have the cake anymore. You know, that's where that saying comes from. So sometimes when you're dealing with a dog like Vito, he likes to fetch. He likes that toy a whole lot. He wants me to play with him, but like he doesn't want to give up his birthday cake. Does that make sense? Does that make sense, cameraman? You know, I mean, that's exactly what happens. So I have to just be patient with him. And when he's holding on to it, I just have to explain, look, you have to give a little bit to get a little bit. It's the way life works. Oh, and if more puppies were raised, understanding that, well, you want up there? Get up there. Then there'd be a lot less trouble with pubescent and mid-pubescent dogs. All right, so now we're gonna go over here and clear us a path and play in the creek. Okay, all right, so now why I have my machete out is because we have tons and tons of these briars out here. And I like to kind of come out here and get these briars cleared up just a little bit, you know, so that the dogs have a more clear path. And that's especially true when we have a lot of puppies in, because when we have a lot of puppies in, I want to be able to keep a good eye on them, and I don't want to have I want to, you know, not too many bad experiences. I want them to learn about briars and stuff, but as much as possible, I want to present them with a good option. Like, so if they get over here and they run into some briars, I need them to have an option to get away from the briars rather than like having to, you know, bull their way all the way through. Go on, Vito, watch out, dude. You're gonna get hatcheted, or machete. Go on. Okay, and then we run into like things like this, and this is just what accumulates over the course of the winter, you know. When you're clearing brush, make sure that you're getting down here so that like you don't leave a bunch of stalbs and stuff. I know a lot of you you're worrying every time I swing that machete. You're wondering, is one of those blows going to catch Vito? I am a machete expert, certified, so you don't have to worry about that too awfully much. Okay guys, now this is why it's so important to make sure that your dog has good manners when you go out. In other words, it doesn't go too far, it'll come when you call it and it'll stop when you tell it, because look what we just ran up on. Show them there, cameraman. That, my friends, is an old dead possum, okay? And however gross it looks, let me tell you 100% it smells worse, okay? And so like as I started to come down here into the creek, I noticed Vito up there fooling with it, and like I was like, hey dude, stop and come back over this way. And luckily he was just getting ready. He had his shoulder down. When a dog's getting ready to roll in something, they kind of turn their head and they body into it, you know. And I told him, I said, don't do it. He turned around, he looked at me, and he looked at the possum, and he looked at me, and then he came on down here and got in the creek like he's supposed to, okay? And if he wouldn't have, then I would have been like washing him for 3 hours, because his owners are going to be here at 9 o'clock in the morning. All right, cameraman, I think you can come on down. I've pretty much got the way cleared for you. Be really careful, as it's very slippery. There's mud on all those rocks, and they'll give way if you're not paying attention. All right, now Vito and I are gonna head on down this creek. And you know, we're both gonna live our best life, because I love coming out here in the creek and walking around, and I love having my beautiful wife as my cameraman, even though she's a little mad at me right now because I made her get next to old stinky possum. As a matter of fact, we should probably break the dog training part of this video and talk about marriage for just a minute. Guys, I've been married a long time. I don't know, like 200 or 300 years it seems sometimes, and I can tell you that the key to being married is all about the little things. Like if you're going to go on an adventure with your wife, make sure that you machete her a nice wide path, okay? You know, don't be selfish and only machete a big enough path for yourself or your dog. Make sure to take a little extra time, clear out the brush, and make sure there's not any snakes or coyotes or holes in the ground for the missus to fall in. Okay, so I guess really probably the only thing left to show you here is where we're going. So cameraman, if you will, just gingerly and carefully step past all that underbrush and go up here. Vito and I are going to head down this part of the creek. Now the reason I walk in the creek with Vito is because I like to always keep in mind, you know, what the dogs are experiencing. It's very easy in life to like have expectations of your dog that, you know, really are a little bit unfair. You see that all the time. You'll have guys and they'll be, you know, trying to get their dog to swim in a straight line or do something. And I'm like, hey, you go swim in a straight line. You don't look like you can walk all the way to the truck in a straight line. So when Vito and I come out here and we're going on an adventure, I'm going to get out here and adventure with them. You know, I like it. I know one of these days I'll be too old to go on an adventure, and so I want to get every one of them that I can. And I also owe it to Vito because like his, you know, and his owners drove him up here from North Carolina, and they said, hey Stoney, you know, our dog had a real tough go of it when he was young, and we would really appreciate it if you'd take him on and, you know, get him to where we can take him on some family adventures with us. And when I took on that responsibility, I took it very seriously, you know. When Vito was a puppy, it would have been very easy to give up on him. You know, I'm going to show y'all a picture. I'll probably make a thumbnail, the picture. His whole face was just swelled up and scarred and full of pustules. He was on prednisone for a long time and antibiotics. He had secondary infections. Sometimes he would like lose his breath and people would be, you know, his owners would be afraid that he was going to asphyxiate. I mean, you know, it would have been very easy to give up on Vito when he was young, and his owners didn't. And I want you to know that some of you might be facing similar health problems with your dogs, okay? We all do our research and we try to get healthy dogs, but it's always, you know, it's always a dice shoot, really. You never know when something bad's gonna pop up. But when something happens to you, just keep your chin up, keep moving forward, and understand that, you know, an impediment when a puppy's young does not necessarily mean that you're not going to be able to have an awesome life later. I mean, look at Vito here. Like, just a few months ago, Vito's laying in the crate, jacked up on prednisone, shaking, couldn't eat, couldn't drink. And what's he doing now? He's fixing to walk on down this creek for about a half mile with Uncle Stoney, and we're going to have an awesome adventure. I would like to take you guys along, but remember what I said about being married a long time? You learn not to push your missus any farther than what she's willing to be pushed. So I'll say bye to you now, and you guys can just watch me and Vito head on off on our adventure. Come on, Vito. You a good dog. You a fine animal.